Hello and welcome to In Safe Hands, our Staffordshire FA podcast looking at all things safeguarding. This morning we are welcomed by Ash. Hi Ash. So Ash, just to go through your job title, which is huge by the way, Digital Forensics Victim Identification Officer for Staffordshire Police. Is that correct?
It is.
Did I get it right the first time?
You did, yes. Thanks, Vicky.
Brilliant. So you're probably wondering why we've got Ash here. So Ash, as well as being an excellent vets football player from what he tells me, and also a father of a player that has gone from under, how old was he when he started?
I think it's about under sevens when he first started.
There you go, under sevens to adult football. So he's been involved in grassroots football for many, many years, but he's coming at it today from more of a policing point of view. So we thought we'd go for a different angle with this podcast. So Ash, I've read your job title, which took a few minutes. Tell me about your job. What do you do?
Cheers, thanks Vicky, and thanks for having me. I'm a Digital Forensics Victim Identification Officer working for Staffordshire Police, and I sit within their police online investigation team, otherwise known as their POLIT. And we specialise in investigations online related to child sexual abuse cases. But my role specifically is to help identify children and suspects and locations of where that child abuse has been taking place. So if we're looking at the imagery and we don't know who that child is, then it will come through to me to help identify who they are and get them safeguarded or the suspects brought to justice, which can see me going anywhere in the world with that. So I work with all law enforcement agencies here in the UK. I work with Interpol, various embassies, and also officers around the world to get these people either safeguarded or brought to justice. So.
Do you have... Here we go. I'm already going off script. Sorry. Do you have loads of cases of this, or is this quite rare? You know, I mean, we see things on the TV, and, you know, you see films, you see TV programmes, and we see the likes of you sort of on there. But I don't think we ever really think about how many cases are ever going at one time.
Obviously, I'm not going to go into specifics about how many cases that we're dealing with, but what I would say is that we've got a team of officers. So we've got 3 sergeants, an inspector, and about 15 officers who we just do this day in, day out, as well as some other police staff, of which I am police staff as well. So there's enough to keep a team going just for Staffordshire.
Wow.
And every police force in the UK will be the same for that.
Wow.
So there's enough.
Do you... I guess how, and this is a bit of a sweeping question, how would you say your job links in grassroots football? Does it link?
It certainly does link. It links into all walks of life, to be fair, not just grassroots of football. But being the victim ID officer, my role is to safeguard some of the most vulnerable in our communities. So the children who are playing football. Now, if I can save one child, get them identified and get them onto that road to recovery, and leading me there might be the football kit that they're wearing, then absolutely it's linked into the football, because we want to try and protect those people to be able to get back out playing football and enjoying what they do in a safe environment. Do
they always know that they're a victim?
No, they don't always. With the use of technology today, the technology is out there where you can start creating indecent images without the child actually having to send those images, so you can use the use of AI to remove the clothing. So we have had cases that I've dealt with where we've identified the child through their football kit, where then led me on to researching that football team's site to try and find pictures of that child, to then link it in to try and find their name, to track them down to a school, to an area, to then find them. And then that led us on to going to knock on the door to do that victim safe and well check and let them know that they've been a victim, but without actually knowing that they're a victim. Jeez. But it's something that we have to do to go and make sure they're safeguarded, because it's better to come from the police that we've identified them than having a stranger in the street, for example, coming up to them saying, I've seen your pictures online.
Yeah, God. And this might be sort of beyond your remit a bit, but what sort of support do they get thereafter then? Obviously, you've done the really hard work of finding out how this has ever happened in the first place and who the perpetrator is. Obviously, you've got the victims. What sort of support do they then get thereafter?
Whenever we go out and we're finding that victim, we find them and we safeguard them, we offer them support and advice, and that's not just through the police but through other like charities, other associations to go and do that ongoing support for them. We also give them leaflets and handouts and speak to their parents and guardians to make sure that they're fully on board, and they can get the necessary help that they need, either through us or our partner agencies.
Okay.
So there is that ongoing support there.
Okay. I guess I'm sort of looking at it from a club perspective. Obviously, we've got our club welfare officers, we've got our league welfare officers. Their main role is to be the sort of head of safeguarding within the club, within the league, and then there's also us at the county. What sort of support and, I guess, guidance should we be giving to players? We'll start with kids specifically, because, as you well know, being a father of kids and me being a mum of kids, sometimes trying to explain to them the dangers of social media, of all that whole area, kind of falls on deaf ears at times, doesn't it?
It does. Education is key. If we've identified a child through a football club, then rather than just going straight to that child or that family, we would liaise with that club to their safeguarding leads to get them involved so they're aware of it, so they can put some process in themselves. But in terms of what can the clubs do in terms of safeguarding, then they can look at running sort of regular sessions with the players and the coaching staff to make sure everyone is aware of what the protocols are and the procedures are within their club, making sure that all the children know who their welfare officer is, so they know who to go and speak to, and creating that safe environment where the children feel enabled to speak up about their concerns. So they know that actually I feel okay about speaking it. They have regular meetups with that safeguarding officer.
And I guess it's not just for their own concerns. You know, kids talk, don't they? So it's, and you know, we hear it in school situations that sometimes it's not the victim that's reported something to an adult. It's the victim's mate, you know, that's been told by a friend, oh, look at this picture, look at what this person sent me. So it's not always the victim themselves, is it? I guess, is that quite a common thing?
Yeah, the victim themselves can often feel embarrassed. They can feel very shy about it, and they can also have the perpetrator groom them to the point of, don't tell anybody, otherwise I'm going to do X, Y and Z. Yeah. Now, put that together and the child can also become very shut down from that, so sometimes it is a friend or a relative that will then speak to the police about that and then get that ball rolling.
What sort of signs would you say the club, so the adults, but I guess the kids as well, what sort of signs could they be looking for, and that we all collectively have a responsibility to keep an eye out for?
We do have a collective responsibility. The signs to look out for is a child becoming withdrawn or suffering from anxiety. A quick change in moods can often be one of the things to look out for. Also with the self-confidence, so you might start seeing them turning up to training sessions with unexplained injuries or an unwillingness to perhaps get changed in the changing rooms in front of others because they might have some injuries that they don't want people to see. Or they might start wearing clothing which you think is a little strange for that time of year. So at the moment we're starting to get some nice sunny weather, and the child then turns up with long sleeves or long bottoms on, again to hide their arms and legs. So that change in moods could come from that. Also to look out for children with unexplained gifts, and that could be technology gifts. So we've seen it where people have been groomed before, where the suspect has then bought them a mobile phone so they can then keep in contact with them without the parents knowing, because they haven't got their normal phone what they think. So we see that tech, or we see money being bought, so like Amazon gift cards or V-Bucks or gift cards so they can buy online games, or even clothing. So a child turning up with new football kits, new boots, new trainers. It is important to say that any one of these changes is not a sign that a child is going to be going through this, but they just take it as a little bit of pinch salt to say, we need to perhaps keep an eye on that. So as well as the coaches looking out for those changes, I do think the parents and the carers have also got a part to play in this. Now, whenever we're travelling to and from a game, and I did this with my own son, that we'd be travelling back from a training session or the game, as I say, that I'd ask him how it's gone, how he thought the game went, how was the training session, what could you do better? And that's probably symptomatic of most parents and guardians. They'll ask about that during the game on the way to and from. But how often do we sit down and speak to our children about our online activities? So do we sit down and say to them, what's the latest app that you're using, or what's the latest game that you're playing? Even if you don't know about it yourself, take an interest, ask them about it, ask them, say, how do you play that game, or how does that app work, or who are you playing online with? Because then that creates an open channel for that child to speak to you about it, and being that open channel, they'll feel more comfortable to speak to you about any concerns they've got on that. So take an interest. It's too easy for us to get locked away in a bedroom and leave them to playing on their online game.
I must admit, from a personal point of view, my youngest, she plays games, and for the most of it I haven't got an issue with it, but then she'll be talking to these people that she's playing these games with as though she's known them forever, and the amount of times you say, like, who are they? And she'll give you their caller name or whatever it is, so not even their real name. Who knows if it's their real name? We wouldn't know, would we?
Yeah.
And sometimes I've thought, but I have no idea if that's a kid that you're playing this game with, or if it's someone that's much dodgier. You know, we don't know, do we?
No, we don't know, and it is easier said than done.
Yeah. And it's scary.
Having two children myself, have I always done that? No.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the advice that we should go and we should take on board ourselves. It is easier said than done. But you're quite right, we don't always know who they're interacting with, who they're online with, who their friends are. The amount of friends that people have on their social media sites, there's going to be a proportion of those that they don't know. So it's just making them aware of that and trying to safeguard them.
You've just said social media and you've just triggered me to thinking about this. So what advice would you give, again, to children, but also to the club officials that can guide and can get into the ears of the children as far as befriending on social media? And I guess the difference between, and again, I've found this from personal experience, that probably 80%, I would think 80% my child does know the people that she is friends with or follow her, but there are 20% that are friends of a friend or friends of a friend of a friend, and I guess they are the big risk. So what sort of advice would you give to anyone that's watching this regarding that area of people?
Yeah, I'd certainly say that only have friends on your social media who you actually know. Yes, there's going to be the times when it's going to be a friend of a friend, but you know of that person, you know that they're a real person, so certainly stick to that. Be careful about what you're posting online, and this goes for the club and also the players personally, is everybody in that photo that you're putting up online happy to be online? So is there somebody in the foreground or is there somebody in the background that might not necessarily want to be put on their social media site, whether that be personal or for the club? So be careful about what you're posting. Think about what you're going to say on that post. Is it appropriate? Again, that's at club level and at player level. And something that I've always said is, in terms of the photos that you want to post, is think about who it's going to. Are you happy for that photo? So the rule that I've always stuck with is, would I be happy for my nan to see that photo? And that's sort of my guideline.
She's your benchmark.
Yeah, she's my benchmark for it. That if I'm happy for my nan to see that photo, then the chances are it's going to be fine for social media use. If I wouldn't be happy for my nan to see that photo, then I probably won't be posting that. Also, in terms of trying to stay safe, think about the terminology that you're using. So, for example, if the club is away on a tour, the people who know people are inside the club know that that club is on tour, but for anybody else in the public domain, that they wouldn't know that they're on tour. So rather than putting "we are having a good time," put "we've had a good time."
Yeah.
People who know, but everybody else, they don't know if they're away or they're not away. Just purely from a club's perspective of the coaching staff, if you're saying that you are currently having a good time being away, then it won't be too difficult to try and research you. Your house is going to be empty, and therefore we know you're going to be away for a period of time, and that can then be targeted.
Yeah, yeah. I guess I've not really thought about the tournament side of things. Obviously, we sanction tournaments throughout the county, which absolutely, we're meant to do. That's right. We're very proud that all of our tournament organisers take that role very seriously. And we encourage them to be really careful with things like their photography policy, the safeguarding policies, so we expect everyone to risk assess well in advance. But I guess, is there any advice that you could give to tournament organisers? Because whilst you've got a club that is very good with their own set of players, their own club officials, and they know them all well, so they can have that conversation. Obviously, when you then start a tournament, you are welcoming 10, 15, 20 odd other teams that you don't know them. You don't know what their expectations are, whether they've got the same standards that you have as tournament organisers. So I realise this was not on the list of questions whatsoever. Sorry, Ash. But is there anything that you would say to a tournament organiser just to sort of set the seed into their mind?
Yeah, I'd certainly stick to their current procedures that they've got around the safeguarding. I would also reiterate those rules and the expectations of the club that's hosting that tournament to all the clubs who are attending there, so they know what the expectations are. I would make sure that there is the signage around notifying who the safeguarding lead is, ensure that there's at least one of those safeguarding leads from their club at least on site during that tournament. Encourage the other clubs to bring their own safeguarding leads as well, so the children have got that safety contact they can go and speak to and report to. And just make sure that there's enough people around to cater for all the children, that there's the designated areas for the children to go to. And without getting too scary, if you wanted to go down to the nth degree, is be mindful about who's coming to watch and attend. We do have cases where hidden cameras have been secreted within the changing rooms and the toilet facilities. So do you want to have a sweep around there at various different points during the day to make sure there aren't any hidden cameras around to do that?
Scary, isn't it? This is just a whole world that I don't really think of. I think I'm pretty good at a risk assessment, but it doesn't really come into my head about, God, you need to double check throughout the game potentially that at some point someone hasn't been in and planted some cameras. I think it's a world, and I probably speak on behalf of a lot of people, it's a world that we don't have a lot of dealings with, thank God. But
yeah, in terms of, it is a horrible world. It's not a nice world to think about, but we are only talking the minority of the community. The most tournaments will go ahead without an issue at all, but it's just being mindful and being aware of it, so then we can put those measures in place to ensure that we aren't going to have any victims. Certainly for me, I can't go to many public toilets without checking for cameras, whether that be a public toilet in the street or even a toilet I don't know, in like a shopping centre or something like that.
God. So let's think worst case scenario, and somebody within the club. Let's start with a child first. So if a child has either concerns for themselves or for a mate, what would you suggest that they do?
Within the club environment, speak with the safeguarding lead and speak to them about it. Also notify the parents as well, get them on board. Speak to the club about it, so any evidence can be looked at and protected. That might be like screenshots. So make sure that we've got the evidence that will be needed if there's going to be a criminal procedure. Do not share those screenshots though, whatsoever. No. We don't want those being shared out. And if you feel the need is then to engage with the police, then get in touch with the police, which can either be through 101 or through the live chat facility through the Staffordshire Police website, or in the case of emergency, using your 999 if it is an emergency matter. But get those on board, and the priority has got to be, and it should always be, the safety of that child.
Yeah.
So we need to get that drilled down to people that don't worry about the suspect to start off with. Let's worry about the safety of that child. Let's get them in a place of safety, and then we can move on to any criminal procedures that need to be in going forward.
And we've talked about this in every single podcast. We've all got a responsibility, haven't we, to report. So it isn't just the welfare officer for the club or for the league. Everybody has, if potentially there's a child at risk. Yeah, I'm not really asking you a question about that. I guess I'm just highlighting that point more than ever, that it isn't, anyone can report, can't they? It doesn't matter who it is.
It is, anybody can report. And if anybody has got any concerns, whether it be other players, parents, coaching staff, safeguarding leads, or whoever's attending, even down to the referees, if they've got any concerns that they've noted either before, during or after the match, it's better to report that through and get it looked at by the professional help that we can offer.
And it's a nothing.
And it's nothing. That's the ideal situation.
Yeah.
But to sit back and do nothing, because that child could be suffering in silence, and we could be the voice of that child that gets them onto that road of recovery.
Yeah.
And that's something that we need to have, and it's better, as we've just mentioned, to report it, something or nothing, than to say nothing.
Yeah. God. There's a lot to think about with that, isn't there, really?
Well, sorry, and it is a very deep and meaningful.
Do you enjoy your job?
I do like my job. I don't like the media I look at. That is difficult to look at. But for me, when I identify a victim and we know that they're then going to be on that road to recovery, there's no better feeling than helping protect the most vulnerable. Likewise, if I identify a suspect, to know that then they're going to have justice brought to them and get put away, that's a great feeling to know that you've again helped protect our communities by putting people away. And on that note is that when we start thinking about what do these suspects look like, because everyone asks the question, are they going to be
Never
the
thought
person?
about that question, Ash.
Are they going to be the guy stood on the sideline? Because, not being horrible, but sort of over 95% of our offenders are male. Are they going to be stood on the sideline in the MAC watching the children? It's what we all
looking like that stereotypical fake moustache, long trench coat.
They don't. They come from all walks of life, from rich backgrounds to poor backgrounds, nice families, some of lone people, of course. But they all come from all walks of life. They are walking amongst us. We would not know them. So it is just keeping your eyes peeled and being aware of them.
Okay. What if somebody, and I'll make this one of the last few questions, so what if somebody came across any footage or something on social media that's not linked to them, so it's nothing to do with them, nothing to do with their mate, but they look at it and think, and I know, like we've said previously, something doesn't need to feel wrong for it to not be right. So what would you suggest if they ever came across anything digital that just seemed a bit weird, shall we say?
By all means, report that through.
Okay.
On the channels I mentioned, 101 live chat, or if you think that there's something's happening there and then, obviously on the 999, report it through to us. We can look at those sites and make that assessment, and then make the judgment call if there's any criminality going on. We can also work with some of our partner agencies, one of which is the Internet Watch Foundation. They're a charity based down in Cambridge, and they monitor the internet to help clean it up for child abuse images.
Okay.
So if there's any notable websites, if you don't want to report it through to the police, you can report it through to them. They in turn will make an assessment on the website, and if they deem it to be some kind of criminal entity that's going on, they'll look to get that website shut down and pass it on to the relevant authorities to get it looked at. Okay. But again, it's the same as if we've got any concerns with children, it's better to report it and get it looked at than just do nothing.
Yeah, then ignore it. Ignoring it is never an option, is it?
Yeah, and on that, if any of the watchers to this receive any media that can often be bandied around as, some people might call it banter, within WhatsApp groups or on Snapchat, and it's unwarranted, my advice for them, because they might be thinking, am I going to get looked at now?
Yeah, because I'm part of that group chat, for example. Yeah.
Would be to delete it off your device straight away. Because if we were to look at something forensically after it gets reported through to us, we could see it get reported, or you receive the message at 10 o'clock, but by 10:01 you've deleted it. So we would deem that as it's not an unreasonable amount of time for you to have seen it and then deleted it.
Yeah.
So you're not keeping it for your own gains.
Yeah.
Remove it. It's also difficult to do, but I would also urge that person to then go back to the originator saying, please do not send that again, that's offensive material. Or if needs be, remove yourself out of that group chat.
Yeah, there's always a way to address it, isn't there?
There is,
whether it's been stepping away or politely confronting to say it's not all right. Yeah. Wow. Well, Ash, you've opened my eyes up to a whole different world that I wasn't really aware of, so thank you.
Thank you for having me, and apologies for it being a dark subject. But
it's unfortunately it's a fact of life now, isn't it? And it's something that I think it's really important people have their eyes opened a little bit more to the risks and to things that they can do to safeguard the kids, because that's always our main aim, isn't it?
Definitely is. I mean, from the people watching this, even if it's just one child that then gets rescued or is prevented from being abused, then
it's worked.
It's worth it.
Yeah, it's worked. Well, thank you ever so much.
Thank you.